Hey everyone, in today's video we are going to go over some phonemic awareness activities, and more specifically I'm going to talk about the 6 different types of phonemic awareness activities that we can do with our students to help them get better at decoding. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, my name is Susan Jones. I am a former first grade and K-2 literacy teacher who now spends a lot of time here on YouTube sharing tips, ideas, and activities with teachers like you. I actually upload a new teaching video every Thursday and Sunday, so if you want to follow along, be sure to subscribe to my channel. So let's dive into the 6 different phonemic awareness activities. Okay, so most kindergarten, first and second grade teachers already know that phonemic awareness and phonological awareness are essential to helping students become better readers. And so it is our jobs to provide explicit instruction with different phonemic awareness activities for students to be able to manipulate those sounds, hear the different sounds in the words. They will take that knowledge and it will transfer to their decoding skills. And with phonemic awareness specifically, there are actually 6 different types of activities that you can do with students that go from simplest to more complex, and they can work through these processes with their phonemic awareness skills. So Really Great Reading actually has a graphic that looks like this. And this is such a great graphic because you can easily see down at the bottom we can work with phoneme isolation, then students can go into blending, they can go into segmenting, and then as it gets more difficult and more complex, students can work on adding sounds, deleting sounds, and then even substituting sounds. A student's phonemic awareness gives them that ability to actually hear and manipulate each individual phoneme or sound in any given word. So I'm going to walk through all 6 of these. I'll quickly describe what it is and give you a couple ideas for activities you can do with your students to help them practice each of those 6 layers of phonemic awareness. All right, starting down at the bottom at the simplest form of phonemic awareness, we have phoneme isolation. And that is just getting students to be able to identify different parts of that word. So if the word is bat and you ask them, what is the first sound you hear, the beginning sound? They should be able to identify and isolate that at the beginning is that b. They should say b. Now, because this is phonemic awareness and we're not talking about phonics just yet, they don't need to know that that b is a b. If they do, that is wonderful. But specifically with this activity, we are just trying to get them to isolate that b sound at the beginning. To teach this explicitly, you will simply tell students we are going to work on identifying different sounds we hear in our words. And you'll give them a few words. Now at the kindergarten level, I really like to use a lot of CVC words. Really, I like to do that in, kindergarten and first grade. Leading up towards second grade, and once you've already taught different phonics patterns like digraphs or blends, you can have them isolate those different sounds, but I like to start with a simple CVC word to start. You will give them a word like the word run. Now with the word run, I'm going to listen for that beginning sound. What does the word run start with? And when teaching them to do this, I like to have them kind of stretch out those sounds. Run. Run. I hear at the beginning. You can also always do phoneme isolation with that medial sound and also the ending sound. Generally, the beginning sound will be easiest for them to hear, the end sound next, and then that medial vowel is usually a little bit trickier for your students. Once you feel like your students are ready to kick this up a notch and practice it independently, I like to do something like a simple beginning sound sort for students to go ahead and sort their pictures. And remember, it's not necessarily words. We're not talking phonics here. We're talking phonemic awareness, so they have to hear the sounds. So they will look at pictures and decide if it has the same matching sound as like whatever your header is. Let's pretend you pick a bumblebee. So we will say b, and then you will show them some pictures and they will say, yes, this starts with b, it has the same sound, or no, it does not. So a simple yes or no. Students can do this with a bunch of different skills, and they can do this with that beginning sound, that ending sound, and that medial sound where they are isolating that phoneme and seeing if it matches the one that you are showing them. Those little sorts I just showed right there, I actually have available in my TPT store. I will go ahead and link them down below in case you want to try those out with your students. All right, moving up that ladder of phonemic awareness, the next simple activity for students to practice is phoneme blending. And just like it sounds, this is where you want want students to go ahead and blend the sounds that they hear to make a word. Now, I've done a few phonics videos in the past. I have this one right here, which shows how I teach explicit phonics in my classroom. And in that video right there, I actually showed how I have students blend letters together to make a word. So with that one that is phonics, I'm putting the letter to the sound, the grapheme to the phoneme. But here in this video, I want to talk about blending just the sounds. And for this, again, it is some simple explicit practice where you will have students, and I start with those CVC words first, and I will give them 3 specific sounds, k, p, and ask them, can they blend those together to make a word, cup? With a bit of repetition, students will be able to go ahead and blend those sounds pretty smoothly to make new words. Now, if you have students that are struggling to blend sounds together, I like to have them do successive blending. So if the word was cup and you ask them, can you blend these sounds together? We have k, p. What they have to do is they actually have to hold all those sounds in their head to blend them together, which can be a little difficult. So you might have them start by just blending those first 2. So let's blend k. Have them say that, and then we'll add on that last phoneme. Cup, cup, cup. Not all your students may necessarily need that, but it's not a bad skill to teach anyway. And like I mentioned in that phonics video earlier, when we start using those graphemes and we get into, consonant blends, I usually have my students do that successive blending in order to figure out new words anyways. All right, level number 3 is phoneme segmentation. So far we have students isolating different sounds they hear in a word. We have them blending those sounds together. Now we want them to go ahead and segment those sounds they hear. So let's stick with our CVC words and we will think of the word mat. I'm going to say that nice and smoothly, and I'm going to let my students know that I want them to tell me the different sounds they hear inside that word. So now they're not just doing that identification or isolation where they're focusing on one sound. I want them to be able to tell me all 3 sounds they hear. You can see why phoneme isolation is at the bottom, because then they're just focusing on one at a time, building up those skills to be able to do this and tell me all the phonemes. So when you're doing phoneme segmentation, you will want to start again with the CVC word, and let's say we'll give the students the word mat. Now, I like to have students take that word mat, I tell them to stretch it out and really try to listen for all 3 sounds they hear. Mat. When doing phoneme segmentation, it can be really helpful to use some manipulatives. I like to use little counters like this, and students can simply sit in your small group, or they can do this whole group. You will tell them the word aloud, again, mat, and they will go ahead and move down 1 counter every time they isolate and listen to that sound. So, t. Have them put all 3 sounds back, and let's do it again with top. T, ah. If you wanted to go ahead and move this into a center and have students practice this independently, you could have them use little phoneme segmentation mats like this one, where they have a picture up at the top and they have to go ahead and move down. They have those sound boxes there for them to move down the counters for each of these words. So, g, or d, g. So now we have phoneme isolation, we have phoneme blending, and we have phoneme segmenting. Now we're going to work on some of the more difficult phonemic awareness activities. Moving up to some of the more difficult phonemic awareness activities, we now have phoneme addition. And this is where students are going to hear a word or part of a word, and they're going to try to add a phoneme to make a new word. Or rather, you're going to give them the phoneme, and they're going to see if they can attach it and add it to make that new word. Now, in order to do this with your students, you are simply going to give them a word, and then you're going to give them a phoneme to add to it to make a new word. So, for example, you might give the word bar, and you might say, we're going to see if we can add a phoneme, add a sound to this word to make a new word. So here we have the word bar, and let them repeat that after you, bar. Now, what if I add n to the end of bar? So we have bar, n. Bar, barn. They have to practice blending it and adding that phoneme to make a word. Now in that one, students were adding a phoneme to the end of the word, barn, but you can also have them do it to the beginning of the word. You might have students say, listen to this word art, art. What if I add to the beginning of the word art. What new word does it make? T, art, t, art, tart. As I'm sure you already noticed, these phonemic awareness activities really involve you explicitly kind of saying what to do, modeling what to do, and then having your students practice with it over and over and over. Just adding some of these activities into your day for about 5 to 10 minutes with your students will really help them with their own phonemic awareness, which again, in turn, will help them develop great reading skills. All right, next, very similar to phoneme addition, now we're going to work on phoneme deletion. So with phoneme addition, they were adding a phoneme, and with phoneme deletion, as I'm sure you can guess, they are going to be taking away a phoneme that they hear. So again, for this one, you'll give students a word, let's say the word grow, grow. What if I take away that g at the beginning? What word does that now make? Instead of grow, now we take away the g and we just have row. To do this, students will really want to stretch out those words that they hear, again, listening for the phonemes, and they're going to take one completely away. What about the word meal? Meal. Take away the at the beginning of the word meal. What do you have? Instead of eel, you just have eel. And just like with phoneme addition, you can do this with the beginning sound or the end sound as well. So you could also do the word rose, rose. What if I take that z off of the end? What am I left with? Rose. I'm just left with row. All right, and now for the most complex on the phonemic awareness ladder, we have phoneme substitution. So far the phoneme addition, phoneme deletion, and now the substitution. With all of these activities, your students are trying to manipulate the phonemes, or they are manipulating phonemes. And they're doing that with the sounds they hear. With all of these activities, I'm sure you've already recognized, students haven't even seen any letters yet. They don't need to attach the sounds to the graphemes just yet. Here they are working on really listening to each part of those words, each sound that they hear, to become more fluent with these activities. Now with phoneme substitution, here instead of just having students add or delete sounds, you're having them replace it, substitute that sound. So we can start with the word mat. You're asking students, what if I take away the in mat and replace it with k? What word does it become? So as you can see, they're actually isolating that phoneme, they are deleting that phoneme to make at, and then they are replacing, they're adding a phoneme. They're doing a lot here with the phonemic awareness. So they can change mat into cat. You can do this with the medial sound. You could say, okay, if I have the word cat, what if I take away and I change it to instead of k, at. Now they have k, t, cut. You can also go ahead and do it with that ending sound as well. So you had mat into cat into cut, and you might say, okay, what if I have the word cut? Can we take away that t and replace it with b, k, b, cub. With phoneme substitution, this is a great precursor to things that I love to do, like a word ladder later on, which is more of a phonics activity because they are going to take those words, the sounds that you're saying, like the cat, and they will actually write down cat, C-A-T. They'll be able to attach the graphemes. They will then be able to, segment all of those and replace it and make a little word ladder where they are changing up each of the sounds with a new letter that they hear. So there you have 6 different phonemic awareness activities for you to do with your students that you can practice, within 5 to 10 minutes each and every day. They go from more simple to the more complex, so you'll want to kind of build upon that progression with your students as you're teaching them in your classroom. This graphic that I shared throughout the video is from Really Great Reading, and I will actually go ahead and link the article that graphic was in. It's a really informative article, and it shares a lot of what I shared today and even more in detail. So if you want to read a little bit more about that, I will link that down in the description below. If you liked this video and found it informative, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up so I know. And if you want to know some more phonological awareness, phonemic awareness, maybe some phonics activities, go ahead and leave me some comments down below and I'll see if I can make a new video sharing some tips, tricks, ideas, things that I'm learning and investigating and having fun with, just like you. As always, be sure you are subscribed to my channel and click that bell. That way you can see all my new videos. And don't forget, I upload a new video every Thursday and Sunday. See you in the next one. Bye.